Hey everyone, my name is Brad. I vlog the name Investing Doc. Quiet quitting has become quite a popular trend, and today I'm going to talk about why my employees, or some of my employees, took advantage of me in the past, and how you can avoid this while running your business, even if it's not in the medical practice, and why we haven't had issues with quiet quitting, but we've had issues with employees taking advantage of us in other ways. Not all my employees took advantage of our kindness. This is really just a select few of the employees. When I first started my practice 4 years ago, I literally had my employees just write down their hours on a sheet of paper and give it to me every 2 weeks. Little did I know that there's programs like On the Clock where the first 2 employees are completely free, so I was really wasting my time. I would say the first way my employees took advantage of me is time tracking. This one's pretty easy, not going to belabor it too much. Basically, an employee clocks in too early, they don't clock out for lunch, they clock in too late, or they clock out too late. It's called time theft. It's hard to prove when it's just a couple of minutes, but it really can add up over the course of your week. As we started to grow, I realized that some people were checking in a little bit early. What I mean by that is, let's say their shift started at 8 o'clock. They would check in at 8 o'clock. Then I would go into the back end of On the Clock, and I would realize that they're actually checking in maybe a mile away while they're stuck in traffic. I got around this by geofencing our office, meaning that the employee, even if they want to use their cell phone to check in, they can't check in unless they're within maybe a 50-foot radius of our office. The other way we've gotten rid of this is that there's actually an iPad that people can check in whenever they're in our office. As much as I love QuickBooks, I will say that if you use QuickBooks for its time off calculation, I really screwed myself without realizing I was screwing myself. Our employees get 3 weeks paid time leave every year. In QuickBooks, there's an option that says the employees can accrue time off for every hour that they work during the regular work week. Initially, when I set up QuickBooks, this is the option that I chose because I didn't want them to accrue time every pay period just in case they took time off, and I didn't want them accruing time off while they're off. Well, 2 of my employees ended up taking advantage of a little bit of loophole in this situation. I didn't realize it at the time, but overtime was not only counting paid time and a half, it was doing time and a half for paid time off. So essentially, 2 of my employees realized that for the overtime, they were getting time and a half of paid time off that was starting to accrue. So they were really starting to crank out a lot of overtime, 12, 14 hours per paycheck. It got even more clever where one of my employees was time banking, meaning that they would work a 40-hour week within 4 days. So they would essentially do 4 10-hour shifts. Then they would take a Friday off and basically not use any of their paid time off. There's always that one employee, and there's one employee that we were like, man, they really are out a lot. So let's start calculating exactly how many days they have taken off. We came to realize that this one lady last year took 5 weeks of paid time off. And she did it by a combination of banking these overtime hours, by doing the time banking, and taking advantage of these loopholes in the system. Now, she wasn't necessarily let go for this reason, but at the same time, it's hard to fault her when she exploited a loophole in the system where she's getting paid time off per hour accrued. I will say, though, that it was interesting that instead of 3 weeks paid time off, this one person got 5 weeks paid time off, which definitely put stress on the other employees, and we felt like wasn't fair to the other employees. The other way employees will take advantage of you is by taking home some supplies. We have an Amazon list. Employees are able to buy certain products on there. All of our phones are voice over IP, meaning that they actually ring on their desktop. We used to have these Bluetooth headsets, but all of our employees told us they wanted something in both ears, that way they could drown out any other noise in the room. We started ordering headphones through Amazon, and then when we started auditing it, then we found out that a lot of these headphones were disappearing. Even though we have 15 employees, last year we bought something like 30 different headphones, and we came to find out the headphones were just going missing and going home with the employees. Quiet quitting for us hasn't necessarily been a big issue. Owning a business now, there's a lot of ways to micromanage your business. And that's part of the downside of having a practice right now, is there's so many metrics that you can look at. For example, I can look exactly what websites all my employees are going to if I wanted to. I can look at exactly how much time someone is spending on the phone through Ring Central or Phone Operator. I can see how many phone calls they usually do per day, how long they're on the phone call, how much their idle time is. There's so many ways to data mine the day-to-day kind of operations. Even within the medical record, I can see exactly how many clicks there are, how many times they're in the charts per day. It's a bit overwhelming trying to own a business, and that you constantly have to find ways to look at the right data sets. Otherwise, you're going to miss the big picture. For example, completely miss this paid time off, or even just having a system for checking in electronically whenever I first started my practice, which I was basically working hard, not smart. I could have been using it for free for the first 2 employees rather than having them actually write down times on their sheet of paper and then me looking at it and transcribing those. Today, I just wanted to share some frustrations about running a practice. It's nothing against the employees. It's really that you always have to micromanage and find the correct data so that employees don't necessarily try to take a mile if you give them an inch. So for all the reasons I just mentioned, quiet quitting necessarily hasn't been a big issue in our practice because we're busy. We don't really have that extra bandwidth where someone could just sit around and do nothing and get away with it. I would say the biggest issues we had is with all of the borderline time theft that we've had on our pay clock. All right, y'all. Thanks for following along. Shorter video this week. Next week, I'll give you an update on how the practice has been going for the last 3.5 years. Hope y'all have a good day. See you next week.